Welcome to the city. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us today is one of our City Council members, the Councilman from Single Member District 1, Rodney Fleming, who was elected to the City Council in June. Councilman Fleming, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to people who may not have met you and may not know you. Talk a little bit about yourself and what you'd like people to know about you.
Okay. First of all, I grew up in Mason, Texas, so not far from here, Mason Puncher. When I got out of high school, I joined the military, and I was actually stationed here in San Angelo, which is kind of a weird thing to be stationed about 110 miles away from where you grew up. I was stationed here from 1986 to 1989. When I got out of the military, I moved to Austin, and my wife at the time was in law school in Austin, and I started real estate in Austin. So I've been in the real estate business for a little over 20 years, and I am a broker, and I own my own business here in town.
Now, what spurred you to run for the City Council? Was there any particular issue or anything that was going on that made you decide to run?
Yeah, well, there's a couple issues. The main one, though, is the water issue, the Hickory Aquifer. I did not agree with us going with the Hickory Aquifer. Now, that we're in the Hickory Aquifer, I know that there's no backing out of it, so it's going to be one of the spokes in the wheel of all the water that we're going to need. But the Hickory Aquifer was a big deal, and I'm kind of a firm believer, or I am a firm believer, that if I'm going to complain about something, I need to be able to put my money where my mouth is. And so instead of just complaining about it, I wanted to be able to say I'm trying to make the situation better instead of just complaining about it.
Well, aside from the water, were there certain situations that you had taken notice of and thought, I'd like to try to do something about that?
Yes, a couple of the issues that are coming up right now. The water is number one on everyone's list, and especially my list. Number two would be the infrastructure for the city, the water lines and all the city streets, and how far behind we are on those things. And that affects my business in real estate by not having the city looked at the way that I think it should. And we've had so many years of deferred maintenance that I really want to work on trying to get those things taken care of as best I can.
When you talk about those priorities, let's talk about water first. What do you think are some solutions that the city should be pursuing in order to fortify our water supply?
Well, all of West Texas is kind of the same position that we're in here in San Angelo. And I think that for someone to say that there's going to be one solution, there's not going to be one solution. We're going to have to come up with a bunch of little solutions. And just like the Hickory is going to be one of our small solutions or a part of a solution, we're going to have to go to different sources. And I think two things that I think are on the horizon that we really need to get taken care of. One, as soon as we can, and I know it's a money issue, is the Arroyo project, the Red Arroyo. I really think that water project could be a very viable solution for part of our water needs, and it could be a fairly low cost solution. We just got to come up with the money that it would take to do that. The other thing is that we heard at our last meeting was the Val Verde, the aquifer down there. And the group that gave the presentation, I love their presentation. I really liked it, especially that us as a city would not have to come up with any money. They would front up all the money. I want to make sure that they can do that and that they are the best company for us. And again, I don't have anything against them now. But I also want to make sure that when we're looking at these water solutions, we're in agreement right now with the Tri-Cities, Abilene, Midland, Odessa, and us. And a lot of smaller cities kind of look to us for solutions also. And I want to make sure that when we do move forward on any of our water solutions, that we're not trying to just think about us, which I care about San Angelo first and foremost, but also at the big picture. I want to make sure that we're all working together to get the same thing for each of our cities. And I don't want them, leapfrogging us to go get the water from Val Verde, and I'm sure they don't want the same thing from us.
On the city's Facebook page, we also see a lot of people who seem to be clamoring for some incentives for conservation and maybe reusing some of our affluent water. Are those things that you're interested in pursuing as well?
Yes, very interested in that. And the Arroyo project kind of comes back to that part. The Arroyo, for a lot of people that don't know what it is, it's the Red Arroyo runs through basically the center of our town, and we don't get to claim any of the water that runs through there. That is, it's not a river. It's just and it doesn't have any banks. It's just an open, basically a creek bed. And because that water just goes through there and it escapes, we don't get any of it. I think that we should try to capture as much of that water as we can. And here, being in the state of Texas, that's one of the last resources that we can go get for groundwater. most of the groundwater is already dedicated to other people.
When you talk about the infrastructure, as you did earlier, of course, the challenge for that is always finding the money in order to fund those sort of projects. What's your thoughts as to how that might be able to be done?
Well, we've got a couple things going for us right now. One is that the oil boom that's happening or starting to happen is bringing a lot more money into the city, and we are going to have more money now this year than we had last year, and next year we'll probably have a good bit more than we have this year. So that's one thing that we need to work on. What we really need to make sure, though, is that we don't do any little pet projects and things. We need to take care of the basic things first, which is our water lines and our streets. Those two things need to be taken care of before we do anything else, I believe, in the city. And so I know that in the budget, if anybody watched the budget meeting last week, we're really trying to dedicate more money than has been, I'm not sure if this is true, but it may have ever been dedicated towards our city streets. And we need to keep moving forward on that and try to get that taken care of. That's what will attract new people to our city, and it saves us money on our city vehicles, our fire trucks, our police vehicles. So it can save us money help save some money in the long run also.
A lot of the people who are watching this probably have no idea what's involved with serving on the city council and the reams of information and background that you receive on an almost daily basis about a multitude of issues. Realistically, how long do you think it's going to take you in order to get up to speed where you feel comfortable on all those issues that are coming before you?
Anthony, I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable with all those issues that are coming towards me. I'm getting better at reading the background stuff and learning what I need to learn and finding out the questions. That's the main thing, is you got to read through everything and figure out what needs to be asked, because you're getting a lot of the information you're getting from just one source. So you've got to ask the questions that would be coming up from all the different sources. All the people in the city want to know, every different angle on those situations. So I think I'm catching up pretty quick and getting that part done. As far as being comfortable, I'll never be comfortable with it. I mean, there's some major issues that are taking place in our city at this time. Probably more issues right now are on us than have ever been on any other city council in the past.
And I would say that would be true as well. And you face a sort of a complicated issue in that you have 5 of the 7 members of the city council, including yourself, are new to this body. Does that sort of further complicate dealing with these various issues?
I think it probably does complicate them, because this is my first time. I don't know how I would have reacted if for say I was one of the only members and everybody was kind of here. The good thing is, though, that Dwayne has, he's the new mayor, but he's been here for a long time. Johnny's been here for a long time, and Charlotte's been here for a long time. And I get pointers from all of them. Dwayne has helped point out several things. Johnny has helped me out on a lot of things and explained a lot of things to me. And so they're good at helping us learn some things or see some that we may need to see from a different angle. So I really appreciate those guys and kind of pulling me by the hand and saying, let's go this way and let's look at this, or you need to ask these questions to get this done.
I suppose the silver lining is you bring a fresh perspective, the new members, to the council.
I hope so. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm very boisterous, and I will tell you exactly what I'm thinking. And a lot of times that's not a good thing, but I will speak my mind, and I'm not shy about that either.
You've served through a few city council meetings now. What's been your impression of council service to date, and what maybe has surprised you about serving on the city council?
The biggest thing, Anthony, that surprised me is that the amount of time. In order to do this job, and this is a job. This is not this. I mean, people that think that this is a part-time job, it's not. It's a full-time job in order to do it correctly. And the time factor really comes into play. I'm totally fine with that, and I know what I was signing up for when I put my name on the line, and I don't have any problems with that. But people don't realize, the amount of meetings that we go to, and especially when you talked about the background information and getting all that. In order to get a lot of the information for those packets that we get, you have to attend the meetings also from those boards. So I've kind of dedicated myself to really going around and meeting with all the different organizations that I'm dealing with, and all the different divisions of the city that we're dealing with, and making sure that I'm doing what I need to be doing, and not hearing just one side of it on that.
What have you enjoyed most about serving on the city council to date?
Well, I love helping people. I love trying to help people out with their problems, and I get calls or emails and from people asking me to try to help them, and I try to do my best on that. My general answer has been so far, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find the answer out to you. Our two assistant city managers have been great, and they've been helping me out with a whole lot of that information and helping out people that live in my district, single member District 1.
We only have about a minute left until the break. Tell us what your constituents are contacting you most about. What are the issues that are weighing heavy on them?
Water. Well, actually, I'll tell you, the latest issue is whether to allow RV parks in the city. And in my area, there's a proposed RV park, and the people that live in that area don't want that. And I agree with them on that, because me being a realtor and a broker, I know that is a good possibility that will bring down the values for that area. And so I've gotten a lot of phone calls from that on that situation. Last week, before the city council meeting, the night before, I got 21 calls in 4 hours at my house, and so on my city phone. So I got a lot of calls on that, and I think that I'm doing what they want me to be doing and what I feel it should be right. And just because you call me and say you want something done doesn't mean you're going to get it. I'm going to do what I think is right for everybody, not just the people in our district, but also the city.
We're talking with Councilman Rodney Fleming. We'll continue this conversation in a moment, but first we want to spotlight another outstanding city employee, emergency dispatcher David Behrends.
Okay, my name is David Barron, and I'm a public safety communications officer, and I worked for the city for 24.5 years. Well, initially, when I was hired, I started at the fire department as a dispatcher in 1988, and then when we combined the communication centers from the police and fire together in September of '96, then I also started using law enforcement dispatch also. Of course, we take 911 calls. We take non-emergency calls. We process the information. If an officer or a fire department personnel need to be sent, we send them out to that location. And of course, dispatchers worldwide like to joke around. We get to tell cops and firemen where to go. Typically, training a dispatcher, generally, if everything goes good, about 4 months. If we can go from front end to back end, that includes call taking. And there's three different positions. There's what we call our Channel 3 that runs the information checks for the officers, checks like for stolen equipment or articles, guns, and such like that, or wanted persons. Our Channel 1, which dispatches all the officers to locations, keeps track of them while they're out in the field, and then the fire dispatch, who dispatches not only the city fire department, which includes the ambulances, but also the volunteer fire departments in the county. Well, I enjoy what I do, and yes, there is some pressure to it, but I enjoy what I do. I enjoy because you're helping people, and you're getting help to people who need it, and it's rewarding, and it's definitely not for the pay, but it's for the satisfaction of being able to help people. Before I came here, I worked at a couple of restaurants. I worked a couple of different delivery jobs, and then of course once I got here, I've stuck with this. So, first of all, where their location is, because if we can't know where they are, we don't know where to send help to. So we've got to know the location first, and then what's the emergency. If we can get at least those two basic pieces of information, then we can get officers going to that location and try to fill in more as it comes available. But once again, those two primary locations, where at and what's going on. Once we get the call entered, as we enter stuff, it will drop in automatically in the notation field where other people can see what's going on and relay that information. The officers can see that, or firefighters are supposed to be able to see that as they're going on their way to the scene. Sometimes it's very difficult. I mean, sometimes you have to try to get their attention and try to get them focused on what's going on. Try to direct the information that you need to get. Because sometimes they'll ramble on about other things, and you need to find out what's going on, and try to direct them and get them, to tell you the information that you need to get. Once again, the variety of things that comes up. I mean, and sometimes you have situations that we've never faced before. It's really not covered under policy, and you have to try to use your best judgment on what to do to how to direct that call, and at least get someone started to that incident. When we get accidents, we get tons of 911 calls now. And it's, of course, just seen over the years, the number of 911 calls we've gotten, on a wreck when, very few people had cellular phones. We get very few. Well, now that almost everyone has a cellular phone, and a wreck occurs, you can tell when the board lights up that we've got something big going on. So. Well, I volunteer a lot. I volunteer with several different organizations such as San Angelo React, San Angelo Emergency Corps, Pecan Creek Volunteer Fire Department. I'm also an amateur radio operator, so I enjoy doing some of that volunteer work. and I've done some of those for longer than I've been as a dispatcher. So I've lived in San Angelo all my life. I just, of course, I was born and raised here. I went to Trinity Lutheran School, then Edison, then Central High School. Tried ASU. I won't say that I actually did very good, but I did, take some classes at ASU, and then I just liked the town. And then, of course, I worked a couple odd jobs, and then, of course, been with the city ever since. Good day away from work is just being able to relax, not have anything to worry about. And of course, like I said, I do enjoy going out and doing some volunteer stuff, and it's of course I've developed a lot of friendships that way. And so you have friends that we work with all the time on our volunteer stuff. A good day at work is when everything kind of falls in place. When you're able to get the information good, and get good outcomes on everything, and get the help out there as quickly as possible.
Welcome back to the city. We are continuing our conversation with Single Member District 1 Councilman Rodney Fleming. You've mentioned several times that you are a real estate agent and an owner of a real estate agency. How do you think that background is going to help you in your council service, particularly dealing with housing issues such as demand and rental rates and zoning issues?
Actually, I think it helps. It kind of goes hand in hand. First off, I'm kind of the front line of everybody that moves to town goes to a realtor or a real estate company. Most everybody does. And so we're seeing all the people as they come into town. We're kind of a first impression for the people that are coming into town. And, we are getting a lot more people moving into town. It is affecting our market drastically. Last year was one of the best years I've ever had in real estate in 20 years. This year, I will probably double last year. And that blows people's minds, but that's how crazy this market is right now. From January of this year, and it was just kind of an immediate boost that it just shot off like a rocket. And the market is crazy, but there are still rentals out there. A lot of people believe there are no rentals. There are still rental houses out there. The rental market has probably gone up between 10 and 14% somewhere in there overall as a city. And so I think that our market was a little stagnant here for rentals, and now it's kind of caught up to where it probably should have been anyways. And but it makes, getting back to your question on how well I know the market and everything, I think being a realtor really makes me kind of the person that should be in this position, or you should have at least one realtor up here at all times. A lot of the things that we deal with are zoning changes, which would be directly related to real estate. And I believe that I have kind of a fresh perspective on that.
You mentioned about the rental rates, and obviously you work in a free market industry.
Yes.
Do you think that the city should be regulating rental rates, or just let the market do what it does?
No, the city, that would be the worst thing that the city could do. And I'm not even sure that we would be able to do that legally. But a free market is the best thing for real estate. It'll balance itself out. When things get too high and things aren't renting, then they'll correct themselves and they'll start coming back down. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some growing pain here in the next year, or probably in the next 3 years or so. And there are going to be some people that it is going to hurt. And the thing that I would like to see the best is we need to work on programs of starting low-income housing. Low-income housing would be an awesome deal here in San Angelo. And in order to do that, we've got to work on some of our restrictions on putting in these subdivisions. We have a lot of really strict rules on how we're putting in these subdivisions. It's costing these developers a lot more money to start a subdivision here in this city than it would in cities that are comparable size in the state of Texas. We need to work on that also and help these guys out. If we can help them start new subdivisions, and especially lower income subdivisions, I think that would be a great help to our city. And because of the way the market is on new construction, we're way far behind on that. So if a developer came today and said, well, I'm going to start a new development, it could be 3 or 4 years before a house is ever even put on that development. So that's something I think we should really work on.
Of course, a lot of the housing issues are being sparked by the oil field activity. What's your assessment of what the Klein Shell development will mean for San Angelo?
Well, the main thing that we're seeing so far is the increase in traffic. We are going to have more traffic because we're going to have more people. Chief Vasquez said last week that we have a 13% increase in accidents so far this year. And I don't know about you, but I know every time I'm at a stoplight, I see somebody run a stoplight here in the city. And the accidents have really increased, and so is the traffic. So I hope that we never get like an Austin or someplace like that where it takes an hour to drive across the city. And I don't think we ever will. I don't think we're going to grow that much. And I think a lot of the numbers that people are tossed out early on in this deal, 6 months ago, they were tossing out 30,000 people in the next 10 years. I'm not sure that that's gonna happen. I hope that it doesn't happen that many people in the next 10 years, because I think that would be too many too fast. And I think that it's slowing down a little bit more than they first said it was going to be at the beginning.
You represent Single Member District 1, which Lake Nasworthy is within your district.
Yes.
And right now there's a development plan being drafted for Lake Nasworthy. What's your vision for the lake and how it should be developed?
Well, that plan kind of includes a hotel. They would like to the city do a public-private partnership out there with a hotel organization of some sort. There's no hotel mentioned, but I'm definitely in favor of that, especially where they want to do it. They want to do it right off of Knickerbocker by the bridge where the marina is. It's not near any houses right there, and I think that it would only help us kind of focus on Nasworthy for San Angelo is our pearl, and Nasworthy is something that all the other West Texas cities don't have. We have a lake that actually has water in it. It's usable, and it's something that we really, really got to take care of. And we don't want to see any overdevelopment out there. When you talk about the development and this overall plan, which I've seen this overall plan, we don't want to do too much commercial development out there, because I don't want to take away from how nice and pretty and active or inactive that our lake is at this point. We want more people out there enjoying it because it does bring more money into our city, but we don't want to do too much out there.
Of course, right now we're involved in a budget process for adopting a budget for the coming fiscal year. What are your priorities for what that budget should include?
Well, two things that I talked about during this last budget meeting and that really hit home for me and are major things for me are the taking care of the firemen and taking care of the policemen. I know that all city employees need raises, and right now it's unbelievable how many city positions that are open because we cannot find the employees. And we're just on the kind of the beginning of this boom where they're starting to take those lower wage earners out into the oil field because they can make so much more money. So I think that we need to work on the wages for them and to keep them here. Policemen and firemen are the reason why I say that we want to focus on them a little bit more than we do on a regular city employee is because we invest a lot more money in the policemen and firemen. The policemen, we invest over $60,000 into getting a police officer into the street by himself. And the firemen, I think it's even way more than that to get them through the fire training school and all the way along. So we've invested so much money in them. Why should we invest all this money into these great employees and then train them, and then they all stay here 2 to 4 years, and then they go off to other cities where they can make 20% more pay? It's just crazy to me. We need to focus on keeping those officers here. And I think by keeping officers here and firemen here, that it will actually save us money in the long run, especially with the police officers. A trained police officer is way more valuable than a young recruit. A trained police officer will be able to write more tickets, will be able to just perform their job way faster and way better than a younger recruit. So if we can keep them in those middle years, between 5 and 10 years, it will do the city a big service.
Of course, the major cost for operating a city is payroll, and the city council is always interested in trying to reduce the property tax rate, and I'm sure that's something as a real estate agent that you're interested in as well. Where do you find that balance between trying to raise employee pay and lower the tax rate?
I don't want to lower the tax rate. I know that it is high, and I'll probably take some criticism over this, but I don't. I'm a believer in that if we've got it where it is now and it's working, or it's just now, actually it wasn't working. We were behind and we haven't fixed our water infrastructure and we haven't fixed our streets. Why would you ever drop the money back down just because we are starting to get money in? We are so far behind on taking care of our streets and our water right now that it's going to take us years and years, probably 10 to 15 years, even if we dedicate the amounts that they were asking for the other day to our streets. It's going to take us a long time to get there. So I don't want to lower the tax rate. I think if once people get used to the tax rate at a certain level, they may not like it. I don't like it. I pay a lot of taxes on my house, but I know that it's going to a good use. I know that we're helping make our city a better city. It'll attract more people. It'll make me make more money in the end. It'll make the average person, all business owners in town. So I'm not for lowering the tax rate. And when that was brought up, I'm just, that's not something that I would ever be looking at this time.
You know, one of the things that the city council also deals with is the absent sales tax and how that's used both to stimulate jobs and to help some community projects such as the improvements that we're seeing along the river. Do you have a philosophy as to how that should be used for job creation? What sort of jobs do you think that San Angelo ought to be looking for?
Well, I think they're doing a good job like they're doing now. We need to focus a little bit more on, we've tried in the past for years and years of trying to get bigger companies to come here. Well, the problem we got right now is if it's a big company and they're seriously looking at the city of San Angelo, they're worried about our water. And so we're gonna be facing that battle for years to come, because we're not gonna have our water situation straightened out probably for several years. But as far as what they're doing now, I like what they're doing. I think that we could work on, I talked earlier about some low-income housing type things. We need to work on trying to divert some more of that money towards some low-income housing and to take care, especially our retired residents here in town that are getting really hammered on this rent. A lot of people couldn't afford to buy, and now they're renting, and their rents are going up monthly. I would like to see some help there for those people for sure.
We only have about a minute left. If people, and particularly your constituents, want to contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
It's rodney.fleming at COSA, or COSATX.us. So it's rodney.fleming at COSATX.us.
And I would have to say, I think that you've so far been very accessible to people who wanted to speak with you.
I try to be as accessible as I can. One thing I'll say is send me an email. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Because of all the meetings I'm going to, and because I work another job, I call the other job the part-time job now. But because I have a part-time job, it takes me sometimes a day to get back to people. I usually don't wait that long, but I try to get back to them as soon as I can and try to have answers for them as best I can. If I don't, again, like I said earlier, if I don't have the answer, I do know where to go get it from.
We've been talking with Single Member District 1 Councilman Rodney Fleming, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.